The following is a commercial program paid for by Heritage Agriculture. The opinions and views expressed in this program belong to its sponsors and are not those of this station or their affiliates or their employees.
Welcome to Farm Talk, where we look at issues that affect agriculture and ranching here in the natural state. Brought to you by Heritage Agriculture. Here is your host, Mike Linton.
Welcome to Arkansas Farm Talk. I'm your host, Mike Linton. My guest today is Mr. Jarrod Hardke, Rice Agronomist with the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. Welcome to Arkansas Farm Talk.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you said, I'm a Rice Extension Agronomist for the U of A System Division of Agriculture, and within that, the Cooperative Extension Service. And my role is to work with our county extension agents and other specialists to help to develop production recommendations for our rice growers around the state. So very fortunate to do that, along with other federal researchers, my counterparts in other states and everything. It's a lot of fun, especially working directly with rice growers out in the field.
Yeah, well, we had Dr. Johnson on last week, because it's rice season here in Arkansas.
Yes, it is.
It's rice season. What's going on out in the field right now?
Well, luckily
I know what's going on. I just want you to say it on your side.
Absolutely. So we're right in the thick of rice harvest right now. So a lot of things happening. If anybody around the state can tell, if you're out on maybe not on the interstate, but on other roads and highways, you're going to see a lot of equipment moving around, a lot of trucks moving. A lot of that is rice harvest going on. So we're roughly halfway or more through rice harvest for the year. And that's what we're headed for, and obviously a quick turnaround if the dry weather will continue that we hope.
I wish we could knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood every time for a dry fall and be able to actually start preparing things for next year. But there is a little bit of that going on in between harvesting, but yeah, mainly in the middle of harvest right now, and happy to be there with it.
Yeah, well, in the great state of Arkansas, rice is king. Rice is number one.
That's it. Most often you have guys that grow a lot of different crops, but typically if they're a rice grower, if they grow rice as one of their crops, they usually consider themselves to be a rice farmer. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, rice, soybeans, wheat, corn.
Yes, yeah. Been increasing in corn quite a bit in the last several years. But,
a lot of cotton acreage is flipped over to corn too.
Yes, absolutely.
How many acres of rice were planted this year?
So we ended up with right around 1.2 million acres of rice this year. We've been for about the last 10 years in a little bit of an up and down cycle, and I don't mean down in any way other than just our kind of our acreage trends and rotating crops, particularly with soybean, or you mentioned corn in particular. And so some years we may see 1.4, 1.5 million acres, and some years down to 1.1, 1.2. And you can really follow that trend up and down almost each year. You'll have a high year and a lower year and a higher year and a lower, and back and forth. So this year we ended up with 1.2 million, and we actually felt really good about that. In some ways it was surprising, given yet another extremely wet spring.
Big time.
We had difficulty planting once again, and somehow we found our way to get that much rice in the ground this year.
Yeah. Is there actually a specific target date for rice harvest?
Date for rice harvest?
Yes.
Well,
I mean, it's
as early as possible. How about that?
It's all weather related.
Well,
right?
It's all weather related, but really it is as early as possible. And typically the earlier that it all goes hand in hand. So the earlier we get the chance to plant, really the greater our yield potential from planting early, but also the earlier we're going to get to harvest. And the earlier we can get into harvest, most often we're going to encounter those better drier conditions to make harvest very rapid, minimize how much we rut and tear up fields to be able to turn them around for the next year. So the earlier we can plant, the earlier everything else happens, and minimize cost of production, and then increase yield potential and quality as well.
What are the expected yields this year? Do you know that? I know that's a trick question.
Well,
right?
It's certainly a trick question. We get into that every year, and nobody can say, yet, roughly halfway through or in that ballpark, how it's going to settle out with the rest of the crop. But so far, everything is reporting very, very good yields this year.
That's what I'm hearing too.
Yeah, so we should be very competitive. We've been fortunate, despite the struggles of the past few years, to have, again, very high yields, not record, but we've been for several years staying just right under our yield record, and it really looks like that's where we're going to be again this year if everything holds together. So at this moment, it's very exciting for most growers, very happy getting across their fields and what they're pulling out of them.
Well, you know, we were so lucky that that big storm didn't come right up through Arkansas. I hate it for the great people of Louisiana and the other people that are struggling now with all the problems they're having. Last year we kind of got sideswiped, especially like through Stuttgart area a little bit, and it kind of hurt us. I know
Absolutely.
that you hit on the spring rains, the floods we got. I mean, it's hurt a lot of people. I know that, but you know, all in all, right now, keep your fingers crossed. I mean, things are looking good.
Yes, things do look good. It's easy to look back just a year ago and the record number of hurricanes that kept coming across us and affecting us through harvest, and we were fortunate. I think that was almost identical. The day we mostly missed that tropical storm event was, I think it was almost exactly a year to the day that Laura did come across.
Yeah.
And cause, again, not as much damage as we thought at the time, but a lot of rain, a lot of events, and it led to a change in weather and was not what we were looking for. And then we got some others that came on after that. So it was a nice one to get by this time, and obviously we're hoping it stays pretty quiet, and we'll see where it goes from here.
I hope so. You know, so we're expecting good yields. We're looking at good yields. What kind of prices are we looking at? I know the prices have been holding pretty well. You know, you hearing anything different?
No, so far that's been one of the other positives. Certainly the other commodities, soybean and corn, have been climbing. Everybody knows now, you know, back and forth a little bit, but
they're up and down right now.
Up and down right now, but as they've climbed through the year, rice has held pace, and so right now we're looking at very, very good rice prices at the moment, and that looks like it's going to continue to hold for right now. And like everything, we never know just how long, but through this harvest and at least looking out into next year, it still looks very good. So a lot of support there for rice prices, and unfortunately for not only rice but corn and soybean, we're going to need that price support with the way it looks like input prices are headed into the next season. So that quite honestly, that price support has to be there.
Well, you know, when commodity prices came up, well, everything came up with it. It has to. It's just most people just don't realize how expensive it is to farm.
Yes.
It takes millions of dollars to farm.
It does. It does. Yeah, even for your smaller farmers out there, it's a major input. Yeah, just to grow the crop.
It really is. You know, and that's what makes us the greatest country in the world, is our American farmers, our Arkansas farmers can feed the world. We're #1 in rice. You know, I think the majority of our rice goes to Mexico. Some of it's starting to go to China now, but the majority of our soybeans are going to China. But, you know, we need to keep as much in the U.S. as we can, but let's export as much as we can.
That's it. We're still a top 10, usually a top 5 exporter of rice on the world market, and that's where we want to stay.
Yeah. Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on Arkansas Farm Talk.
Tell us we can't, and we'll prove you wrong. Knock us down, and we'll get right back up. Call us risk takers, misfits, bad boys. But we know what we want, and it feels like American muscle, looks like advanced engineering, and smells like fresh, cut grass. Bad boy, mow with an attitude.
As a farmer, your work is built on a promise to the land and your community. At Farm Bureau, we understand the needs of farmers and ranchers. Protecting your way of life is our mission. We've created an insurance policy that protects everything farmers rely on. We call it Ag Promise. It's a pledge that hasn't changed in more than 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Call your Farm Bureau agent today.
This way of life demands well-built equipment, proven and adaptable tractors that can change with the job, hay tools born from the strength of our 100-year legacy, durable sidekick utility vehicles that cover more ground at speeds up to 40 miles per hour, and comfortable, productive SSV skid steers. For all your farming needs, Kubota equipment is built right, built ready. Visit your local dealer today.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whenever you want. In your life and on your farm, Case IH AFS Connect gives you more control. Monitor your operation, manage your fleet and your farm data your way. Case IH. Rethink productivity.
Since 1921, we've been supporting rice farmers across America. These are the farmers who own our co-op, who prosper together, striving to do more for their communities, going deeper, working smarter, growing stronger. That's how we make good even better. That good comes from the time and toil they're passing down of a way of life that supports not only their families, but families all over the world. So the world can be served with great food. Riceland. United, we grow.
Every farm operation has diverse tillage needs. Let the knowledgeable staff at Heritage Agriculture of Arkansas show you the Great Plains tillage lineup, one of the most diverse in the industry. Whether you're looking for vertical, conventional, or a hybrid tool in between, Great Plains is known for durable, dependable tillage equipment like the Turbo Max, Lister Cultivator, Velocity, and more. Find your perfect fit at one of our 7 Heritage Ag locations today. Customer focused, customer driven, and we want your business.
Welcome back to Arkansas Farm Talk. Okay, Jarrod, we've talked about yield expectations, we've talked about prices. How does this compare with recent years?
Well, everyone's always unique. It gets said pretty often now, you show me a normal year, let me know when we get to one, because we don't feel like we've seen one in quite a while. And really the past 3 years, 2019, 20, and 21 have somewhat run together. They've certainly had their own battles, but 3 straight years of very wet springs, again, more delayed planting, more difficulty through the year, but largely pretty mild summers, and that's
it has been a hot one this year.
It finally showed up.
Yeah.
It finally got there, but really until we got on, broke into July pretty well, it hadn't turned that hot until then. So when we have a majority of the summer and the growing season that's warm, it's still warm, it's still humid, it's still Arkansas, but mild by our July and August standards a lot of times. Those are optimal growing conditions for rice. It doesn't actually get too hot for it to cause problems. And that's really what has seemed to support a lot of our high productivity the last few years and the great success we've had. We've really had a few things go in our favor. In 19 and 20, I get them mixed up now because some of the things do run together, but we'll look out and catch heat at the right time. 2019, we had what we called, I think that was 19, a very late summer that finally showed up on into September, running to all the way to October. And a lot of very late planted rice made a tremendous crop that nobody, including myself, expected to happen out of that rice, because typically there's not enough heat to make that crop. And it showed up in phenomenal yields. And so
we've had it this year.
We did. We had it, and again, we needed it to kind of play catch up. We were dragging out in time. We talked about the optimal timing for harvest. Well, we were starting to trend fairly late, at least by our standards or our goals, and so that heat finally showing up let us hurry up and bring the crop on along. And
our great farmers, all they need is a window.
That's it.
And hopefully, with the red iron, with the red tractors, combine sprayers, they can get that crop in, they can take care of it, and they can get it out. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal, and that's really probably what we've learned most from recent years when we're looking at them is our ability to take advantage of these small, narrow windows to get a crop in. That's what it's been all about. The days of the past few years, it hasn't seemed like you get a week window to farm and do any work and plant anything. You get about 2 days. So it's how much can you squeeze in 2 days, and then it's going to be wet for another week. And miraculously, we found a way to work within those windows and just be ready for them. And that's how we got the rice crop in that we have.
Well, that's the thing that most people, farming is not a job, it's a lifestyle. So it doesn't matter what day it is, doesn't matter what time it is. When it's time to go, it's time to go.
That's it. We don't sit around waiting on the perfect conditions, because they'll never show up. When it's time it can go, we're at it. Day or night.
Well, hey, let's talk about the weather impact. We've kind of hit on it earlier this spring. Southeast Arkansas was hit. Earlier we had 200 million plus in direct losses to rice, soybeans, corn, cotton, and wheat crops in 5 counties: Deshay, Lone Oak, Prairie, Jefferson, Drew counties, due to the floods in Southeast Arkansas. How are these counties rebounding, or are they?
Well, I'll just say that's an excellent question. It's very difficult to generalize how well they're rebounding or not, because it's very situational, and unfortunately where your fields or farm happen to sit in relation to drainage basins or waterways to help get things moved along. But it was even a slightly larger area than that. There are a few more counties that were affected largely. One unique thing about rice is we think about that we flood it. So, you know, what's a heavy rain, you know, to rice, getting a large rainfall? Well, rice tolerates a flood. It doesn't like a deep one, and being submerged.
They blow the levees out.
No, that's it. That's it.
So
we had a lot of levees blown out, but we did also have some of those areas that rice went completely underwater for an extended period of time, and that will kill rice.
Sure
so.
Will.
It's certainly not as sensitive as soybean and corn, which we did have a lot of those that did die in the field, but we still probably had 40,000 or so acres of rice that were submerged long enough that it took those acres completely out. Some did elect to replant those. Now that was replanted at the very end of June. That's not where we want to be, but again, attempting to get a crop on those. Some of the soybeans and not corn, but some of the soybeans that were lost, those were replanted. Some cornfields lost, went to soybeans, things like that. But again, pretty devastating effects, especially when you consider the further you get to southeast Arkansas, the further along a lot of those crops were, and so many, if not the majority of all the input costs had already been made.
Yeah, well, you know, the good people down in Deshae County, I mean, man, within a day or two, they got 24 inches of rain at one time. I mean, I know at our Stuttgart location, we got 1.5 inches of rain inside the dealership. So, I mean, I hope everybody is gotten back on track and recovered from all that.
Yeah, they're attempting to, but again, some growers did have thousands of acres of crops wiped out. You know, very, very difficult to recover from, but that we're certainly hoping for, again, continued good weather even now for some of those late replants and things that happen to help them stay on their feet through this season, because for the ones heaviest hit, very, very devastating.
Well, you know, we've got some soybeans almost ready to go, and then we've got some this tall.
That's correct.
So it's all over the board. It's going to be a late harvest this year.
That's it. We ended up with some soybeans planted right around the beginning of August. That was when certain areas, fields finally dried out that guys could get to them, and lo and behold, it looks like they may have something off of them. Not what they wanted to be planted a lot earlier, but they may get something.
Well, if the weather will help us out, we'll get there. Our guys will make it happen.
Just a little more sunshine is all we need.
What's the latest acreage report from the USDA's National Agriculture Service? How does this compare historically in Arkansas and now also nationally?
Latest acreage report?
Yeah.
Well, again, we kind of talked about that a little earlier with where we are in acres at about 1.2 million. And again, from our kind of last 10 years up and down standpoint, we're a little lower than we typically averaged in rice acres throughout the early 2000s, really 2000 to 2010, but we've kind of settled in just slightly below that average. That was when we were running probably our highest production levels and particularly acreage levels. But again, everybody is still mostly on track, but just a little decline this year in acres. So, you know, nationally, there's still a lot going on. California is down in their acres. Now they service a little bit different markets, focusing more on medium grain and exporting to different countries than we typically do out of Arkansas and the Mid-South, but they have water issues. Not having enough, to go around. We're complaining about too much water, and they could use some of it, but so they didn't see as many acres planted for that reason, and we didn't see as many acres planted for the opposite reason of having too much rainfall. So again, kind of where we're headed is still looks very good for overall production, and with again a high expectation of yield that will be right in line with where our average has been for quite a few years now.
I got that. Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
A lot goes into taking care of your property. You need equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in, like #1 selling Kubota compact tractors that can do it all right, Z-Series mowers that deliver a quality cut, and the Sidekick utility vehicle built for hard work and fun at 40 miles per hour. Kubota equipment lives up to the highest standards. Yours. Visit your local dealer today.
As a farmer, your work is built on a promise to the land and your community. At Farm Bureau, we understand the needs of farmers and ranchers. Protecting your way of life is our mission. we've created an insurance policy that protects everything farmers rely on. We call it Ag Promise. It's a pledge that hasn't changed in more than 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Call your Farm Bureau agent today.
We all have our reasons for doing what we love. Personal reasons. Professional reasons. Big reasons. Little reasons. Sometimes, no reason at all. It doesn't matter what your reason is, as long as you do it full throttle. Bad boy, mow with an attitude.
When you think about it, productivity starts at planting. So it's time to rethink how productive your planter can be. We did with the new Case IH 2000 Series Early Riser Planter. We rethought your row unit so it's tougher, more accurate. We rethought your meter, took the most precise technology, factory installed it. We rethought every inch of the Case IH Early Riser Planter to make it the most productive planter around. And if you think about it, that's exactly what you want.
Since 1921, we've been supporting rice farmers across America. These are the farmers who own our co-op, who prosper together, striving to do more for their communities, going deeper, working smarter, growing stronger. That's how we make good even better. That good comes from the time and toil they're passing down of a way of life that supports not only their families, but families all over the world, so the world can be served with great food. Riceland. United, we grow.
No matter how you buy ag equipment, Ag Direct can finance it. We're powered by Farm Credit, people who know agriculture. So along with options to purchase, lease, or refinance, Ag Direct offers attractive rates, helpful service, and ag-friendly terms. When you compare the price of iron, be sure to compare your cost of money. Ask for Ag Direct, built for agriculture, powered by Farm Credit.
Welcome back to Arkansas Farm Talk. I'm with Jarrod Hardke. Okay, Jarrod, we've been talking about rice harvest, okay? Lots going on right now, okay?
Yes.
You know, we could sit here for the next 5 hours. We've got so much stuff to talk about, but we've got a short window here. So, you know, you and your team and y'all do so much for the Arkansas rice farmers and growers. Okay, if they want to reach out to you guys, if they're having some issues or they've got questions, how do they do that?
Easiest way is to jump on the website, like anything these days, and that's uaex.uada.edu. And from there, jump in the farm and ranch section. You can pick rice, soybean, corn, any of those, and our contact information, phone numbers and emails are all there, along with tons of information for you to grab right there at your fingertips. But obviously, you can reach right out to us directly.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about, you know, you, your office, and your team. I mean, that's what you're there for. You're looking to help.
That's it. We're looking for those phone calls, text messages, emails. Obviously, we'll answer what we can on the phone, and if we can't, we're coming to the field and we're going to figure it out.
Figure out what's happening.
That's it.
Okay. What research do you have going on right now that could provide some insight and into how to improve productivity and profitability?
The shorter answer would be what don't we have going on?
Yeah.
That's kind of
that's
the role.
Why people need to reach out. Right?
Yes, I mean that's it. We're trying to, and you know, there's probably something we hadn't gotten onto yet, but we're trying to touch on pretty much everything related to rice production in Arkansas to improve all facets of it, and that goes from a little bit more in my direct wheelhouse of the agronomics of certainly cultivar variety selection to seeding rates and nitrogen rates, things like that, to our weed scientists and entomologists and plant pathologists, and certainly our rice breeding program, working on developing new varieties. The food science department, again, working on helping select those rice varieties that are going to be most preferred for certain markets. So trying to catch it from all directions.
There's a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah,
right?
And a little bit of everything. And certainly, again, our county extension agent system, tremendous in supporting that and working directly, connecting us with growers and conveying that information to help them out. And
that is so important. You know, the producer can reach out to their county agents and then, you know, get help when they need it.
Yeah, it's still one of the more, it's becoming more unique. It used to be the model, but that's still something. We still have a county agriculture agent in every single county in the state of Arkansas, and certainly in the Delta region, growing most of our crops. So certainly all the specialists are running around, still in the field and doing things, but you know, we do get scattered a little bit running around. You've got the county agent right there in your county to be first contact, to hop right out there and try to help immediately.
Yeah, it'd be great. Man, the bugs have been awful, okay? Let's talk about pest management. Armyworms, stink bugs, they've been so severe this year. What's happening out there in the fields, and what are you advising rice growers to do?
Well, luckily right now the armyworm portion of it is largely past. Now
we're still fighting a little bit in our hay fields.
Well, I was just about to say pastures and hay are the only place that still fighting them a little bit. Still kicked some up on some field edges just yesterday, even still finding them. But Dr. Gus Lorenz and Nick Bateman been working, and Ben Thrash been working very hard on that this year. So we did have to get some crisis exemption. Worked with the Arkansas Department of Agriculture to make that happen, because we weren't getting the control with our available products to control armyworms. So once we got that product in hand, we started fighting a better fight and bringing them under control. But those guys have been doing a lot of work on the amount of damage we could tolerate from that pest, and here we are, ran into it, and we had a good threshold to go with the amount of defoliation before we actually needed to treat from those. And certainly, unfortunately, it carried over into then rice stink bug.
Stink bugs are everywhere, man.
Yeah, they're everywhere, and they're always everywhere. It's just a question of just how much in rice in a given year. And last year was a pretty mild year in 2020 for rice stink bug. Guys sprayed some, but it wasn't too intense. And then we came into this year, and it picked up pretty heavily right out of the gate, and they kind of just wouldn't quit. And unfortunately, once again, in that scenario, started seeing some control problems with our available products, and had to follow a similar route with fall armyworm to try to bring those back under control. As we're in harvest and guys have more fields nearing that point, we're still telling guys to watch out and be diligent. I won't get into all our thresholds and the technical stuff.
That's why they need to reach out to you, right?
But reach out to us, because just because you've drained a rice field doesn't mean stink bugs can't still damage that rice. That's usually the biggest point. I want people to get away and not lose that. So we want to keep that so they have nice, high quality rice at the end of the day when they deliver it.
Yeah. Anything else specific that you want to hit on? I know that's a trick question.
No, it's absolutely a trick question. No, the main thing is that we're just happy to be here in support of all of Arkansas's rice growers, all growers, especially rice for me though.
Yeah.
And again, I grew up on a rice farm, so I came by it honestly. So we're just out here to help and want people to give us a call and reach out so we can do what we're here for. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing much unless I'm out running around in somebody's rice field trying to figure something out, and that's how most of our guys feel. So we want to be out there helping them.
Well, like I said, go to the website, and there's a lot of information there to check out, or to reach out to somebody if they have questions or if they need help.
That's it. If you can't find it, we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, Jarrod, I want to thank you for everything you do, your entire team does, for all the great rice producers here in the great state of Arkansas.
And thank you for having me on here, Mike.
You bet. We'll see you next week on Arkansas Farm Talk.
Thank you for watching Arkansas Farm Talk, brought to you by Heritage Agriculture.